Welcome to Auto Started Podcast in North Iowa. My name is Erick Nganyange. Special guest in the show today, the founder of KT Facilitation, Karie Terhark.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
How's it going?
It's good. It's going real good.
Beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day.
I know. Man, leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership skills. Where do we go wrong?
You know, I work with a lot of different groups and we do a lot of different planning, and we'll get into kind of that. But The one thing that I hear all the time is like, what is it that we need to improve on? One thing that comes, communication. With the team. Yeah, anyone, right? And it's like, what does that really mean, right? If we all say we need better communication, but what does better communication mean?
Yeah. There's nothing I hated the most than not knowing what's going on in my organization.
Right.
It could be a simple thing like that. And I think that probably frustrated a lot of people at work. It's like, I work here, but I have no idea. Yeah. And then we want people to engage with what's going on with the organization they don't even know. And even when the goal is being shared, we really don't know what the end goal is.
Yeah.
It's like, get this done. Nobody's explaining why this is important.
No. And people aren't included in the planning process.
Amen.
Right? I've made this plan. I'm the person at the top. I'm the leader by role, by pay scale. You must do what I've decided must be done. And you have people who are doing the work, people on the floor who are like, doesn't even make any sense. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that?
KT Facilitation. Mm-hmm. Break down what that is all about. What is it? What is it all about? When did you start there? Your journey to get to it. I think there's a lot. It's been going on, and hopefully we can dig into everything today.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the word facilitation. Like, we use the word facilitation interchangeably with a lot of things. We use it as, having a conversation. I'm facilitating a conversation, or I'm facilitating a training, or I'm facilitating a curriculum. But what do we really mean by facilitation? Facilitation is actually the process. So it's bringing a process that helps groups listen, talk, and work together. It's not about the content. It's not about me being the expert and convincing you that you need to do something. It's about, I'm expert in the process, and I believe that you have the answers. I just need to hold space for you, the group, to listen, talk, and work together.
It almost reminded me like, was that Six Sigma process type of thing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Change management.
Yeah. Like, I'm just showing the process, but you the expert. You work in HR, sales. Pretty sure when you're working in those areas, you saw there was something missing.
Yeah.
And you start thinking like, man, there's a niche here that these organizations are not seeing it.
Yeah.
When did that seed planted in you, and then you go like, you know what? I tried to sell to all these organizations like, hey, we need to change here, we need to change there, and nobody's listening to me. I'm out.
It's kind of funny because it actually happened when I was doing community coalition work. I live in Britt, so in Hancock County, we had a community coalition to work on drug and alcohol prevention, mental health awareness around our youth. And I've grown up in Britt. I've been there most of my life. I worked in the pizza place in high school, raised my kids there. I know people, right? Yeah. I know a lot of people. I did youth work through my church for a lot of years. And so when I was asked to lead this coalition, I thought, how amazing, right? Because who doesn't want to rally around youth and creating this space for youth to thrive and have choices? Mm-hmm. And I found it was really, really difficult. You're bringing together community stakeholders who have competing priorities, who have their own agendas, who have all of these things and different experiences. Like, that is the key. Understanding that people have different experiences. And we couldn't come together around anything, right? We might argue around something, or we couldn't agree on what prevention really was or what we needed to do. It ended up being meetings where Karie reported out what Karie was doing We have that stakeholder meeting and Karie gets to talk about, hey, this is what I did this month. And people are like, yeah, great job. And we leave. And I was like, I don't need cheerleaders. I don't need people coming behind me and patting me on the back. I need people to collaborate, right? I took a facilitation course and it completely changed the way that I ran the coalition meeting. And it opened up a door for me that was like, this is the skill, the leadership skill that I've been searching for that's missing. And I want to teach people how to do this.
We have so many meetings at workplace. And then you go in, you get out and you go like, what did that meeting accomplish?
You just do. I think our work time needs to be work time and our meeting time should be collaboration time, right? You could send me an email on what you've done. When we come together, let's use that time to figure out how we're going to work together. What are we going to do?
How would you facilitate something like that, the meeting? How is your meeting goals today?
Well, this is what I teach. Like, this is the framework and the method of which I teach. I think the first thing is what you said earlier. Like, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Why are we even getting together? Let's not get together because it's the third Wednesday of the month at noon, and that's just what we do.
Yeah.
But what is the purpose? And not just we need to discuss new office building. Our agendas are new office building, or our agenda is staff orientation, whatever it is. What about staff orientation are we doing? Are we brainstorming it? Are we looking for a budget? Are you looking for input for me? Are you just telling me? Like, what around that are we doing? And we don't think that through. We just put it on there, then we come in and we're like, I don't know what you want from me.
How do you keep the meeting on topic if you run the meeting without being rude?
I mean, there's a lot of tips and tricks and things that I use. One is to set those aims, those goals, be specific, let people know ahead of time what they are, let people know what they need to come to the meeting prepared to talk about or look at. You got to take the time to engage everyone in that meeting. And if I have somebody that's going off topic, I can go back and say, I hear what you're saying.
Let's get back.
That's not on our agenda today. That's not within the scope. Yeah. And if it keeps coming up and it keeps coming up from other people, I might stop at the group and say, it sounds like this keeps coming up. And if we're not able to move forward until we address this, then we need to stop what we're doing and address this first. I think sometimes we want to go fast. Yeah. We want to get right to the outcome. We just want to go. And we're not always stopping and pausing and thinking about what else is happening that's going to influence that later. So go slow to go fast, right? So if there's something that we're not ready to make a decision on because we just keep squirreling and people keep bringing things up, then there's maybe something deeper we need to address before we're ready to move. But there's a lot of techniques that I use to help keep things on track and activities. I mean, I don't say activities, right? Because people are like, I don't come to work to do activities, but they're important, right? So to being able to say, just take a minute and write down a few ideas to yourself and then share them with a neighbor, that just continues to re-engage people, because people don't engage and participate at the same level.
I agree.
So what do people need in order to be engaged, right? So what can you create for them to do that?
Sometimes you might be in a meeting with 6, 7 people and there's only 2 of them talk.
Yep.
The rest of them will be happy not to say a word.
Yep.
But they have an opinion about what's going on. Then how do you, without calling them out, how do you get them to engage, to have to participate in it? I
love this question. The first answer to this question is stop talking. We mistake silence for disengagement. I always say in our trainings that we have microwave thinkers, right? I'm a microwave thinker. I process, comes in my head, out my mouth, processing it as it's coming out. Like it's a hot pocket. It's, it's cold. It's cold in the center, out on the outside. I don't know what's going to come out.
Which sometimes that's good though. It's the raw idea. Before you disregard it, let's put it on the table, because maybe we can get to it and see what's going on there. Yeah.
Microwave thinkers are so great, right? Because they can help keep things moving. On the same side, we have crock pot thinkers. And so a crock pot thinker wants to marinate. Yeah. Like, I want to take in all the information. I need to sit on it. I need to put all the things together, all the ingredients together before I give input, before I give my answer. And when we're leading a meeting, I see so many people Like when there's silence, they feel like they have to fill it.
Oh, yeah.
And they just keep talking. And then sometimes when there's silence, then you have your microwave thinkers that start to take over, and then they start squirreling all over the place too. Mm-hmm. Where this is a really great place to do, just to say before, I want to hear your ideas on XYZ, but before we start talking about it, I want everybody just to take a minute. I want you to take a piece of paper, and I just want you to write down, think to yourself quietly, write down kind of what you've got going on. Mm. What are you thinking? Right. And then start to lift those voices. Now, what's something you wrote down that you can add? If I have a large group of people and I have a group that isn't engaging, I always say I don't call people out. I invite people back in. People say, you know what, for those of you that hadn't said anything yet, I just want to leave some space here in case you want to, there's something you want to say something.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from this side of the room yet. Or, if you always have that one person that always starts, so we have a question, they're always the person that answers it, right? Because they're always on it, right? They're following and be able to say, let's hear from someone different. Who else, right? Who else?
Yeah. Now you took this training about facilitation, and then the light bulb went on.
Boom.
Like, this is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I want to do this. Now, what happened from that until you started KT Facilitation?
Yeah. So I immediately started working on it. It's called the technology of participation, or the TOP methods. And there's a certification that goes along with it. And in order to be a trainer in it, you need to be certified. So there's a portfolio you need to put together of all your work. So I started using the tools in all of my coalition meetings, in, our youth coalition meetings, and all the things that we were doing. I was just practicing, but then creating my portfolio. Once our grant ended, I went to go work for an organization out of Minneapolis. And this is the work that we did. Like, we were training and facilitating all over the country. I got my portfolio done and then started my apprentice journey and trained. And I worked for that organization for 5 years and had so many great opportunities to meet people all over the country and facilitate so many groups on so many different subjects, and realized that I was ready to go out on my own. I was ready to start something. So 2 years ago, I left and started KT Facilitation, and, I'm doing the same work, still working across the country. So
I want to talk about leadership a little bit.
Yeah.
You say leadership is the choice, is not a position. And you say before we lead others, we must learn how to lead ourselves. What do you mean about leadership is the choice?
I think it ties together. One of the things that was a decision maker and to go onto my own business was I was burning out. I was living my dream. I was doing what I love. I was being able to both travel and work. And I was doing it with the most amazing group of people. And yet I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you're not a good leader. I realized that I was building somebody else's dream. I kind of lost sight of my own values and my own person in order to fit into a space that I felt like maybe I outgrew.
Oh.
And one of the things when I started on my own business, I hired a coach, a mindfulness coach, that really kind of helped me. She would ask me questions like, who are you? Who is Karie? And I was, everything that I answered was work related, or was related to be a mother, or, whatever. I just didn't know who I was at its rawest form.
Yeah.
So I really started doing a lot of values work. One of my top values is integrity. And I want to show integrity in the work that I do to other people. I want people to show me integrity. And my coach asked me, but how do you show integrity to yourself? And that, I couldn't answer it. Oh. And I read the book, The Spiritual Entrepreneur. And one of the things that she says in this book that just resonated with me was the health of the business is a reflection of the health of the owner.
Ooh.
And I really took that to heart, to be able to say, what am I doing to show up for myself? What am I doing to show myself integrity, or to live my values to myself? Mm-hmm. And then being able to model that in all the spaces that I went into. And realizing then that that is true for everyone. And if you work in a school district and you're brand new in the school district and you're, working as a aide, a teacher's aide, you can lead.
Mm-hmm.
You can show up and live your values. You can show up with your positive attitude. You can influence the people within your sphere. And that is leadership. So we mistake leadership for power.
Ooh, that's true. That's true. I don't have the power to make a decision. I cannot lead.
Right. So we're waiting for somebody else
to tell us what to do. How did you get to that process of basically finding yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got lost on the work like everybody else.
Yeah.
Walk me through that, because I think that's very important.
Yeah. I started, like I said, I hired a coach.
Yeah.
I spent, some intense moments of questions and reflection and a lot of journaling. I started to read books that are places that I wanted to get to. So for me, one of them was The Spiritual Entrepreneur. The other one was The E-Myth. Both of them, one very systems based and one, more interpersonal based. I really, before I even did my mission vision, all of my strategic plan, I did a values exercise. I wanted to know, who am I? What are the values that make me who I am? And mine are integrity, collaboration, fun, growth.
Can somebody do this on their own?
Yeah, you can do it on your own. You can Google. I have a deck of cards that I go through, but if you Google values exercise, you can find websites that will walk you through them. There's I think the deck of cards that I have is like 78 different values. And you divide them up like, this is not important to me. This is somewhat important to me. This is very important to me. And you take the what's very important to me, which is going to be a lot, because you think all of them are very valuable to you. And then you really, really narrow it down to just a few. Like you're very, very top. Like this is what it is. And it's so insightful because it helped me build the business that I wanted to stay true to those values, because that's who I am and that's how I show up. That was the language that I wanted to come across on my website. It was the language that I wanted to come across in social media, in my proposals, in conversations with partnerships, right? Like that is me showing up in my own business.
Man, the question of who are you is tied into values.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to you right now, say, Karie, who are you? Beside KT Facilitation, what do your answer be today?
I am someone who loves to meet people. Like I love relationships and learning from other people.
Yeah.
I love looking for ways to collaborate because I believe that we are better together. I love to travel and have fun and adventure. And I love to, when I go places to work, I don't just come in and out of an airport and a hotel. I want to experience the community of where I'm working. I'm someone who I love adventure and fun.
Yeah.
And I love to figure out a way to create an experience, both in a fun way and an experience that is my job.
How do you build skills on someone?
Yeah.
Because that's one of your passion. How do you take somebody, because most of the time people think they don't have skills. How do you build that into somebody? How do you get that out of somebody?
The basis of the skills that I teach is to get to an end result of being able to work together, to collaborate. So the basic skill is learning how to have that conversation, that communication piece.
Yeah.
And in order to start that conversation, we have to have a general understanding of where somebody's coming from. So many times we have a conversation and we end up disagreeing on something, and then we realize if we can continue to have that conversation, if we're still open to that conversation, we realize that we're either not talking about the same thing or there's something deeper than that we haven't uncovered.
Yeah.
And so the foundation of what I teach is, what does that conversation really, really look like, right? Because our brain is so amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so efficient. And we take in the world through our senses. So you hear, see, smell, sight, sound, all of those things, right? Your senses. And then our brain processes, I think the science says that our brain is taking in about 20 million pieces of data every second through our senses, every second, subconsciously. We can only process about 40 of them. So you and I sitting in the same room, what are the chances that we're even taking in the same 40, right? Out of the 20 million that are coming at us.
Yeah.
And what we process, our brain processes efficiently based on a previous feeling or an emotion or an experience, right? So we have a reaction to that. And then we think about what we can do, and then we do it. And it happens so quick. Our brain just goes through that process all the time. And so how I use this as an example in class is that if you and I are walking down the street and we smell fire, we smell smoke, and I go, oh, that smells good, right? Because the memory that I have with that sense is sitting by a warm fire, right? Wrapped up in a blanket, hot chocolate, right? If you've experienced a house fire, you're a firefighter, or you live in somewhere where there's wildfires, your reaction to that fire is very different than me. And what we end up doing is arguing about the fire. And I say to you, like, I don't know, I don't understand why you're so upset about this. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, you're stupid because how did you not know? Right? And we don't talk about what the experience is. We're just fighting about the fire. And imagine somebody's with us who didn't even smell the fire, who's going, I don't understand what you're talking about. Why are you even arguing? And so we have to first understand. Like I said when we came in, I was listening to your conversation about tribalism.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you asked in that question was so good. Like I was clapping. I was so excited because the first thing you did is you had them define what it was.
Yes.
Because words mean different things to different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so understanding first what you mean by that helps me to go, oh, okay, I wasn't thinking that way. So that's good to know, right? So it helps me connect where you're going in your thought. But then being able to say, so what's your experience with that? Like, if we're talking about, something in our meeting and being able, like, so what is your experience around this change? Right? What's your experience around we're moving towards this? So what's your experience with this? Or what are you hesitant about?
Yeah.
We don't ask those questions.
Wow. That's very important. And defining things is critical. Otherwise, you're going to catch yourself 30 minutes down the road. You're arguing, then like you say, but then you realize you're arguing about two different things.
Yeah. Going off as assumptions.
Yeah.
We talk about in the classes that we teach that this is perspective, right? This is what broadens your perspective. This is what gets you out of your one story. And now I'm able to see it somewhere else. And I kind of think about this as like, we're all in this same life together.
Yeah.
But we all have on different colored glasses, right? Different lenses. The way that I see the world and the way that you see the world are very, very different.
Yeah.
Even if you've grown up in the same household.
That's true. Very true. Right. That's why you can have 3 kids and they can turn out completely different.
And you parent them based on different things as well, right? And so we have to stop assuming that everybody is taking in life the same way that we are. And I think what's happening especially in communication that happens in our homes, in our workplaces, and in our nation, in our world, is that rather than listening to somebody to hear your perspective, I'm trying to convince you that what I see is right.
That's
and I'm never going to see it through your eyes.
No.
And being able to hear your voice, being able to hear about your experiences doesn't take away from what I experienced.
Man, I feel like what you're doing is more of discovery.
Yeah.
It's almost like discover who you are in the process of leading.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you let power corrupt you.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if there's really, a name for it. Part of it's maybe transformational leadership. Sometimes I use like facilitative leadership, but it's this understanding that as a leader, I don't have all the answers. I don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
What I need are the questions. And I need to create space that people feel that they bring value. That people feel that they bring value, that people trust me enough to share and know that we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah.
The wisdom is in the room. The answers are in the room of the people that you're working with.
That's true.
And I don't know how to describe this, but it made me think about, because we're not a single person has all the answers, right? No. Not everybody. But what happens, I think, a lot of times in leadership is when we know we don't know something, that we almost push back against those deficiencies, right? Where it's like, I'm going to be really, really forceful over here. Or I'm going to be forceful in a different way so that you don't know that I don't know, rather than being able to say, you know what, let's sit down together and let's figure it out.
Yeah. Why do you think a lot of organizations make mistakes of setting people in a managerial position that you talk to them in 2 minutes, you go like, you should not be there?
Yeah. I think when we promote people to management positions, we do it because they were really, really good at their job, the task.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's all these task things that need to happen to make an organization flow. And then you have the management of the people who are doing the task, right? And then you have the visionary at the top. This is the person that's really guiding the ship, right? That's really high level. And what we do is that we take the people who are doing the task and we put them into management positions, but we don't teach them how to manage. So the only thing that they know how to do is the task that somebody else is now doing.
Yeah.
And so the only way they know how to manage is to micromanage the task.
Amen.
Because that's what they know how to do.
Yeah. Oh, man. When you micromanage people, you're also doing another damage, that I don't trust you to do your job.
Yeah. And it goes both ways, right? Because if you're micromanaging me, if you're so involved in what I'm doing, then I'm questioning what are you supposed to be doing?
Yep.
What are you not doing that you should be doing? Because then is that position even needed, right? If all you're doing is coming and telling me how to do my job better, then you and I have had this conversation too, is that sometimes we get into that space of, we think my way is the only way and the right way. I often will use, when we're talking in strategic planning, about, are you a shoe or sock shoe tie person, or are you a sock shoe tie sock shoe tie, right? How do you put that? How do you get ready in the morning? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we both walked out with shoes, right? So we end up arguing about the way that it's being done.
I don't care. I just want to make sure you're coming out with your shoes on.
Right.
Even if you decide not to put socks on, you're good.
Exactly. And leadership, right? High level leadership and the visionary. And this is why I love doing strategic planning too, because it has to be broad enough and agile enough that it can move through time, that it can move regardless, if people come and go, then tasks might change.
Yeah.
Or if funding comes and goes, then things might change. But the overall direction of where we're going as an institution or as an organization for the next 5 years is all the same. How we do it might change depending on all of those things. But what often happens is that we're so focused on how we're going to do things that we end up somewhere and we're like, how did we get here? Yeah. Right? Because we didn't really set a direction. We were so busy on the tasks, so narrow focused, that sometimes we miss opportunities that really could have been popping.
How can you tell somebody's a great leader?
For me, they're the person who's talking the least. I'm looking for somebody, and even people I've had in my past and experienced, asking questions to understand, not asking questions to accuse, like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
But, tell me more about what you're thinking, or where are you hoping this is going to go? Have leaders who have conversations with employees that ask employees, engage employees to set their own goals. Right. And so even a one-on-one conversation, that being led by the employee and not the leader. I love when I'm working with a group and people aren't afraid to talk and people aren't afraid to push back or call out what isn't great. because I don't care what organization you work with. There are things that aren't great.
Yep.
And if I'm working with a group and the group is able to call out those things without blame, but to be able to say like, we need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And the leadership doesn't get red in the face, doesn't get shaken up, doesn't defend anything, but takes it like that. I love that. I was just working with an organization doing a strategic plan, and the CEO was getting ready to retire. And he had said, like, by the time the strategic plan is done, I will be gone. Mm-hmm. So part of the strategic plan was putting in a succession plan to replace him. Yeah. And I could tell from the very beginning that people just really admired him. They wanted, whatever he said, they listened to, but they also had their own input, and they were also okay to challenge back or to say from their perspective. And when it got down to some of the priorities that they needed to start right now, it could have been all around replacing him, but his voice was, we need to build up all leadership in this organization, right? It's not about him. It's about all levels of people.
Yeah.
And what do we need to do to support all levels of people?
And that's a very thin line, actually, to have an organization that people are free to say what they feel in front of the CEO, and push back his ideas, and without being afraid.
Yeah.
Majority of us, we just existing, wandering around this world until the day we have to check out. Mm-hmm. And then we'll realize like, whoa, it's time. I didn't really leave.
Yeah.
I existed. I never spent no time finding what my passions are. And now, here I am at the end of my life. How do we find our passion and we stay on it? Because I always say the magic of your life happens when you find your passions and you tie them to what you do, your values, you tie all those three together.
Yeah.
That's when it's like every day of your life is going to be living, it's not going to be existing. But most people have no idea how to look for that.
Yeah. And I don't know that there's a right time. For me, it was, I'm middle-aged. And for me, it hasn't been that long. And I really look back, and I know for me, it was really thinking of my story and kind of journaling my path. And from the outside, it was like, wow, that's a lot of different random things that have nothing in common, right? Like, you worked here, and then I was working here, and then I was doing this. And so I started asking myself, was like, what was my experience in those things? What are the things that brought me joy in those moments? And what is it that I carried from that into kind of the next phase? What is the common link through all of that? And it was skill building. My passion is to build skills. I was kind of joke that I was never really qualified for any job that I had. Yeah. I could talk a great game, and I love challenge. I love to be able to step in and say, this is what I know I can do for you. And then meeting that goal. And so I want to build skills. Mm-hmm. I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to grow, which is one of my values. And I want to share that with our people when I know it. And this is the shift of generation. Our grandparents, coming out of the Great Depression, worked for survival.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a purpose. It's a purpose. It wasn't a passion. Mm-hmm. It was, what do I need to do to survive? And then their children, the boomers, were like, wow, I'm going to dedicate myself to one job and pour my whole heart and soul into this. Right. And like I said, they're going to go to school for 4 years. And at 18, this is what I've decided to do for the rest of my life. There's no way out.
Yeah.
It's not about joy. It's about hoping that the 401k is still there when I retire, right?
Yeah.
And each generation learns from watching their parents go through life.
Yeah.
Work-life balance has become a thing. I'm a Gen Xer, but close to millennial, but in that space where it's just like, I'm not going to dedicate my life. We watched our parents completely dedicate their life and have no passion for what they were doing. You spend so much time at work. Mm-hmm. It's like, we want that balance. And now we have a generation of kids that are coming up that have job opportunities that didn't exist 30 years ago. And they have a greater opportunity than ever before to turn that passion into purpose. Wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I've worked with organizations that when we sit down and we talk about their communication strengths or how they work, their approach to work, they're a very, very outgoing person, and then they're in a data level job.
Yeah.
And it's like, this doesn't come natural to me. Again, I can do it. I've learned to do it, but it brings me no joy because I have to be so focused on this, right? Where it's like, well, what if you moved across the organization and did a job like this? Maybe if you were customer facing, right? That rather than being data faced, or vice versa. And so knowing yourself and knowing your organization, where do you need to position people where they can find joy in their work, and then upskill them. Then that's when the facilitation skills come in. Now let's teach them how to plan, how to run meetings, how to have conversations with each other, and start to build that from the ground up.
And I think if you play on the people's strength, you'll get better results.
Absolutely.
What does the youth development look like to Karie?
I guess the first word that comes to mind when I talk about youth development is empowerment. Because I did youth coalition work, I worked with youth group in my churches. I've, gone and done youth development with other organizations. Same thing. Like, as the person who is standing in front of the room, I want to be the person who's talking the least.
Yeah.
And so what are the skills? What is the environment? What is what do I need to create so youth feel like they can step into that space and share? And as they grow and learn to listen to each other, they can learn how to listen to others. They can learn how to lead meetings with adults, with whatever it is that they're advocating for. The tools that I use with adults are the exact same tools that I use with youth. And we've done leadership exercises, or we've done values exercises. And we did an awesome values exercise. I worked in Eastern Kentucky for 2 years. Our last session, we had 2 girls that started the year just best friends, inseparable. By the time that we got to the end of the school year, they weren't talking anymore.
Oh, wow.
Something had happened. And we started talking about values. So we just, we couldn't really get into, she said this or she did this, and they weren't listening to one another. And so we did the values exercise. And, one of the first girls, her top value was honesty. And the other girl wasn't even in her top 10.
Wow.
Right. And she had both of their values were great.
Yeah.
But the one gal, she was like, I feel like you weren't honest with me about this. And the other gal she didn't have a great relationship with her parents. She didn't know her dad. Her stepdad died of an opioid overdose. So family and honesty, she had never lived honesty in a way. So it wasn't a top value for her because she hadn't experienced it in that way. And after they had this conversation, she was like, I'm holding you up to my value, but it's not yours.
Not yours.
And it was such a great conversation to see them leave that session starting to rebuild their relationship.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a big part of our frustrations, because we want other people to live the way we do or the way we want them to live.
Yep.
Now take that situation, bring to marriage.
Yes.
If your value is like this.
Erick, it took me about 25 years to figure out.
Yeah, because we had this conversation one time on our mentoring group, and we were talking to the young boys about dating and stuff like that. And we had that conversation. Figure out the value. Yes. And if you guys are not aligned, it's done deal. That's very important to understand. Even friendship, now I'm thinking about it. Even friendship, in order for the friendship to survive or to stay that long, you at least need to have some top values, that the thing that both of you guys value the most.
I think you either have to have similar values or you have to be open to understand that you don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we have competing values, what does our relationship look like? And what does that communication look like for us? What happens when we get into conflict and our values are in conflict? Oh. That's a different, that's a different conversation. And again, it's that slice of humble pie to be able to say, like, I can't ask you to experience what I've experienced. I can't ask you to value what I value.
Yeah.
But I can understand that it's different, and I can understand where you're coming from, and I hold no judgment. It's yours, and you hold it, and what's mine.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I think is really important for everyone, in order to be heard, you have to listen. And a lot of times you have to listen, actively listen.
To understand.
Yeah, to understand long before the door is open for you to be heard.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into Stoicism?
Mm-mm.
You will enjoy this. So Stoicism is the ancient philosophy, 2,500 years old. Their whole idea is the dichotomy of control. As human being, there's things you control, there's things completely out of your control.
Yeah.
And the more you focus on the things you cannot control, that's when you bring in depression, anxiety, stress, frustration, anger, all this stuff that we constantly think is within our power to control, but actually in reality it's not. And they say you take those things out of your life, you will see how happy you become, how content you become, and then you focus on the thing that you can absolutely control. In our conversation right now, I don't know how this episode is going to go, right?
Right.
But my job is to do my part, to do the best I can do. And the more I try to control me, the better I become. And that's why when I was reading your stuff on your website, I was like, man, why do I feel this stuff? It very intertwined with the Stoicism. Maybe Karie need to look into this to just add more of that flavor on top of that.
Yes.
Technology of participation.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Yeah. So technology of participation is the framework, the facilitation framework, the process of which I teach. So it starts with a conversation, teaching people how to come to consensus, teaching people how to do action planning. And then there's a whole other process that builds from there. And it was developed long ago in people who were doing work in community, doing grassroots efforts for community kind of organizing throughout the world, helping communities come together to help themselves, solve their own problems. And started, finding out that it worked. Like, why was this working? What was the process that they were using? And it follows that brain science, right? Like, we take in things through our senses. We have a reaction to it. We think about what's possible, and then we make a decision. And so that process, what it does is slows the process down and creates a journey out of it. It broadens my perspective so that we're doing that in conversation. So I understand where you're coming from, that I understand you saw something I didn't see. I understand that you experienced something I didn't experience. And what we've done that once now I have a broadened perspective. I have more data to look at. Now together, once we bring both of those perspectives together, now what's possible? Because that's where innovation and creativity comes in, right? We're thinking of something new. We're getting out of our old patterns of thinking. We're breaking those pathways and we're thinking of something new. And then how are we going to move forward together? What's the decision making? What's next? And so it takes that process and it just repeats it in a lot of different ways and different exercises. And the cool thing about technology of participation is that there's no technology involved, at least when I do it, because I teach in person. It's no laptops. Good. It is face-to-face.
Oh, I love
it. It is pen and paper.
I love it.
We're going to sit in conversation. We're going to look each other in the eye. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to write down our ideas and we're going to create, we're going to create something together.
So my favorite thing to do these days is, as you get older, you start thinking a little bit different. It's taking something like that and forget about the leadership, forget about a employer aspect of it. And I'm thinking like, okay, how do I use this to my daily life?
Yes.
And you were saying that, and I say, okay, I think I can use that when I meet people for the first time and we are having conversation about anything. It could be, I always say there's no conversation you cannot have. I don't care how hard it is. It just depends how you have that conversation. And I think using TOP for that, you meet somebody for the first time, just get to know who they are.
Yeah.
And then when you hear the things they believe, you can quickly tie to where they're coming from.
Yes.
And then you go like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to have that conversation before you shut it down. Like what they say, never judge a person for the decision they made unless you understand what option they had.
Goes back to, we assume that everybody's looking through the same set of lenses we are. We're in the same room, so how didn't you not get here the same way I got here?
Yep.
And you make a great point about, the top facilitation methods that I teach, and it's a course, and you can take those methods and you can use them in business settings or personal settings or whatever it is. But for me, it is just what you said. It is now the way that I function through life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask more questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to actively listen. I'm going to be intentional about creating spaces where people feel that they belong and that they have an opportunity to share. My vision is that everybody understands that their experiences in life hold value in every space that they walk into.
When employers reach out to you, what they usually looking for?
It depends. Yeah. So when I'm talking about top training, those are public courses. So I hold them primarily in Kansas City and Cincinnati. Hopefully getting some in Des Moines here. I just haven't worked in Iowa very much in my 7 years, but looking to do more of that. I do have a course coming up that Nganyange is going to be hosting in December, so that's going to be fun. It's not, It's not top, but it's not top. But it's a liberating structures, which is the same kind of facilitation techniques to get groups to kind of break down those barriers and start working together. Like how these are some real great, easy, simple things to practice that's going to help create that space for people to share and collaborate together. So that's a course you're going to want to take. So a lot of times it's people looking to upskill certain, employees within their organization. We want them to know how to run meetings or do whatever. If they're looking for me to come internally, a lot of times the first step is strategic planning. Okay. They're like, we want you to facilitate the process to move us through strategic planning. And then from there, after they've, started experiencing that, they're, a lot of times it's as development. What do we need to do to help develop, as you said, like what's the full journey to develop the individuals, to build the skills, to build the collaboration? What are our working agreements? How are we going to work together? And then what is our strategy?
Do you do like one-on-one leadership training or skill building, that type of stuff, or it has to be a group thing?
Nope, I'll do one-on-one. I don't like to say I do coaching. I like to say I do mentoring, same as you, right? Okay. I like to help guide people building their skill set and understanding who they are rather than being a coach. So I do some of that, but a lot of times it's groups.
Okay. The strategic planning.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of organizations, they're running one. Do you go in and look at the organization's strategic planning and you kind of take it apart?
Nope. If they want to go through where they've been in the past. So I think I call it more environmental scanning. So we want to know what's happened in the past or what's in place that needs to change. Because I think what's important to understand about strategic planning is we only need to do strategic planning when we want to change something. Okay. I don't need to be strategic on how to do the day-to-day stuff.
That's true.
Because we know how to do that. Yep. So we want to get into strategic planning when we want to shift something, we want to move into the future, we want to, adjust what we're doing. So there has to be something that to change. In order to change, we have to do something that looks at the past. So whether it is looking at our past strategic plan or whether it's looking at and doing a trends analysis or, a history of the organization, whatever that looks like, I love to start there. Do I look at it and tell you what needs to change? Yeah. No. Okay. I bring the process for the group to identify what they need to change. Because if I'm coming in as a consultant and I come in and I pick apart your strategic plan and say, you need to adjust here, here, and here, and here, and then moving forward, this is what you need to do. What happens when I leave? It sits on a shelf because no one's like, she's nuts. Yeah. She doesn't work here every day. How does she know?
That's true.
So I bring the process for the group. Wisdom's in the room. Mm-hmm. I ask the questions that collectively you can answer. Yeah. And you decide as a group what it is that you're going to change. Everything is participatory.
I like that. I like that. What are some of the greatest leadership books you can leave my listeners with beside, I think you already pointed out the E-Myth.
The E-Myth is
the spiritual of
the way of the spiritual entrepreneur.
Yeah, the way, yeah. Or it might not be a leadership. It can be a great book.
There's so many that are popping up. The 4 Agreements.
Oh yeah, like that one.
Everyone should read that. I have it both in audio and written. Kind of gives you that perspective of how we're functioning in life just as an individual. There's another one of Know Your Why.
Find Your Why.
Find Your Why. I'm reading right now The Art of Gathering. It's pretty popular with people who do the same work that I do, but what does it really mean to gather people? Which kind of goes along with the role of facilitation. What is the role that I play in spaces? Part of it is just creating the space where people feel comfortable, right? If I want people to come in and I want them to share and brainstorm and I put them in a classroom setting, right? It gives off a certain vibe.
Yeah.
And what that looks like. But yeah.
If you're the HR manager right now, what is your hiring? When you hire people, what are you looking for to bring them to the organization?
Well, I'm looking for a couple of things. I think one, I always feel like we can always build skills.
Ooh, I was hoping you're going to go there.
Yeah. I want somebody that's going to fit in the culture of our organization. Like that's priority for me. The way that they approach work, the way that they approach relationships, the way that they approach collaboration, the way that they fit into our organizational values. And if you don't know what your organizational values are, you probably better go back and start there.
Yep.
So I want that fit because for me, everything is an experience.
Yeah.
If I bring the wrong person in, it doesn't have a great experience. It could make a really bad experience for everyone. And I talk a little bit in my journey about being in a toxic work environment. In a toxic work environment, a lot of time can start with one person. Like people will say, like, get rid of the person who's toxic. But eventually it's a virus. And we're all so getting rid of that person doesn't change the toxic environment because our culture has shifted to accept it.
Yes. And sometimes the most smartest person in that organization is probably one of the most toxic.
Yeah.
And it takes the organization so long to cut that person off. By the time they do, the virus is spreading the organization so deep, you almost need to uproot the whole thing.
Yeah.
What's dangerous is that sometimes that person gets put on a power position. I heard this saying one time say, you can train skills. You cannot train the attitude.
No.
So when you do your hiring, you better make sure you hire the attitude first and skills will follow.
Yes.
And the older I get, I believe it.
Yes. Like I said, I mean, I've seen organizations uproot. I've seen them go all the way back to the beginning and start over. It was needed. It was needed for everyone. But even in my situation, it kind of got to the point where I had been there kind of since the beginning, so I didn't realize it was really happening. I didn't realize the progression of where it was. And when I decided to leave, like I said, it was like I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you're not a good leader.
Yeah.
And I was no longer a good leader because now I was participating in a toxic environment.
You failed to lead yourself.
I did. And I didn't lead with integrity. Like I didn't lead myself in my own values.
Yeah.
Right? I was letting everything else around me tell me how to act.
Yeah.
Tell me how to lead. And then I became part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been great. You and I, this is not our last conversation.
No.
There's a lot of more coming up. Karie, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.